Hello guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, bringing you my first video book review. So the first book I wanted to review was the first book I decided to read from the Most Wanted series, and it's special edition number 1, Zombie Halloween. I love this book. This book I can literally say nothing negative about. It is one of the better, newer Goosebump books that I can think of to possibly read. It's going to be tough to top this book as far as the Most Wanted series. I've heard the 12 Screams of Christmas is really good. Heard Trick or Trap is pretty decent. Wanted the Haunted Mask I heard is really good. But this one was the first one I decided to pick up because it's a Halloween story. It's something new with zombies. I wanted to see what this one was all about. And for starters, this book had one of the greatest prologues in the history of Goosebumps. It is absolutely terrifying. This prologue really gets to me. And because of the prologue alone, I wouldn't recommend this book for anyone under the ages of 8 years old because it is pretty graphic. And this book does not shy away from giving descriptive horror, like gore, violence, and what have you. I mean, it does not shy away from that. But for the most part, this book was fantastic. Starting with the prologue, and then it goes into part 2, which is really good, and then part 3, which is very, very good, almost as good as the prologue. So, a little backstory. So the prologue takes place, and I found this really interesting about this Goosebumps book, was that the prologue takes place in the 40s, and it follows a kid named Moses, his friend Ivy, and Moses' brother. And they go visit a graveyard around Halloween. Everything's not as it seems. They go back to a house, and a lot of creepy stuff happens in this house. And the ending of the prologue, wow, the imagery there just really set the tone for this book. And this is a very, I guess, serious tone book. And it's almost kind of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, for one particular character, as we'll see throughout the book. And this character comes into part 2. It fast forwards to present day. And in the present day, it changes to a kid named Kenny. And Kenny and his friends are obsessed with zombies. They love zombie-related stuff. They like watching zombie TV, video games, anything to do with zombies they're obsessed with. As you can tell, the title of the book is Zombie Halloween. So they hear a bunch of these stories. They get creeped out by their new neighbor that moves across the street. There's a bunch of weird things going on with them, and that's what part 2 basically centered around, visiting the neighbor across the street. And then part 3 takes place 5 days before Halloween. And what happens at the end of the book is pretty good. It's very, very satisfying, minus the last page. The last page really kind of bugs me, but it fits. It fits, and you know, I can definitely see the R.L. Stine twist at the end to give it kind of a lighthearted ending to such a serious tone book. But I love this book. The only little nitpick, I would knock it down maybe 0.1, is that last part of the ending where, you know, they're in the house and something happens in the ending and it cuts there. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I really dug everything else about this book. It was such a love letter to George Romero. I felt that. I think R.L. Stine was going back to his roots with Welcome to Dead House. I got a lot of vibes from that. And there's a lot of scenes in this book that will petrify you. Like I said earlier, the rope scene in the prologue and part 3, both terrify me. The couch, oh wow. But the scariest imagery I can think of was in part 3, the graveyard scene, dealing with the grandpa. That was very, very good. So for the most part, I think this book was fascinating. If you have never read a Goosebumps book, this is a good place to start. If you are a fan of the older classic books, Give Yourself Goosebumps, Tales to Give You Goosebumps, Series 2000, and you haven't read a single newer generation Goosebumps book, start here. If you're a fan of Halloween, Goosebumps, it doesn't take place on Halloween. That's like something I thought going in. Halloween night, maybe zombies will break out. No, that's not what this book is about. And I actually think the book is a better premise, subject matter, in the way it was told than just a generic zombies break out on Halloween. But for everything good about this book, there's very little to no negatives, and I think everybody will enjoy this. Like I said, I think you have to be 8 or over to really enjoy it without getting too petrified or scared. There is a recommendation for a minimum grade level of 4th grade, so I would kind of stick with that for the most part. If I had to rank this book on a scale from 1 to 5, I would give this a 4.9 out of 5. Like I said, that very last paragraph just didn't sit well with me, but I enjoyed everything else about the book. 99.9% of the book was fantastic. 0.1 I had to deduct. That was it. So, a 4.9 out of 5. It's a solid read. Definitely recommend this book if you haven't read it. So with that being said, I got another review coming up. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.